You were not born to be comfortable. Comfort is a velvet-lined coffin. You lie in it every day, slowly burying your dreams under the weight of routine. It feels warm. It feels safe. But it is not life. It is a slow death. Every second you trade your potential for convenience, you tighten the chains of invisible slavery, and you call it security. There's a whisper in you, a hunger you try to silence with distractions, with habits, with busy work. But that voice will never shut up, because it is the voice of your becoming. It is the voice of what you could be. And the truth is, the life you want is on the other side of everything you're avoiding. Look around. The world was built by people who refused comfort. Carnegie didn't sleep on silk sheets. Edison didn't crave weekends. Disney didn't build an empire by taking the safe route. They were obsessed. On fire. Uncomfortable. Napoleon Hill once wrote, "The man who actually knows what he wants in life has already gone a long way toward attaining it." But you can't know what you want when your life is drowning in distractions, when every quiet moment is smothered by a screen, when you're terrified of sitting in stillness with your thoughts. And why are you afraid? Because in the silence, you remember you're not living the life you were born for. You remember you once had a vision. You remember you once felt alive. That's why comfort is a cage, because it blinds you with pleasure and starves you of purpose. You say you want freedom. You say you want wealth. You say you want to make an impact. But here's the truth, freedom is not given. It is earned, forged in the fire of voluntary suffering. You must break yourself open before life opens its gates. No one becomes unstoppable in air conditioning. No one rewrites history by clinging to the familiar. Greatness is forged in discomfort. Every moment of history that shifted the world, every invention, every revolution, every work of art that transcended time, was born in the furnace of resistance. And yet, you're scared to feel pain. You're scared to sweat. You're scared to be laughed at. And while you cling to your comfort, the life you were meant to live drifts further out to sea. Let me ask you this, who told you life was supposed to be easy? Who taught you that struggle was failure, that doubt meant stop, that fear meant turn around? Was it your parents? Was it your teachers? Society? They meant well. But they were wrong. The truth is simple and brutal, struggle is not a detour. It is the path. And if you can face that, if you can lean into it instead of running, you will uncover a power you've never touched. Because inside the struggle is who you really are. Not the mask you wear. Not the role you play. But the real you, the unbreakable force that doesn't bend to fear, that doesn't cower at challenge, that refuses to live on its knees. But first, you must choose. Choose to break free from the comfort that's killing you. Choose to feel the ache, the burn, the confusion, and walk forward anyway. Choose the tension of growth over the ease of stagnation. Because the pain of discipline is temporary. The pain of regret is eternal. Every empire started with a single soul who dared to believe discomfort was not the enemy. That man working alone in a garage. That woman rewriting the rules from a studio apartment. That immigrant with nothing but fire in his chest. They didn't wait for perfect timing. They didn't need approval. They knew freedom is on the other side of this. This fear. This fatigue. This discomfort. And so they stepped forward, while everyone else stayed seated. So what about you? Are you just going to listen to this, nod along, and go back to your old life? Or are you going to finally step outside the cage? That cage made of soft beds and glass screens and good enough. That cage where dreams go to die. Listen to me closely, there will never be a perfect time. There will never be a day when the fear goes away. There will never be a version of you that feels completely ready. But there is a version of you who acts anyway. A version of you who makes the decision now. Not next year. Not when it's convenient. Now. Because action is the great divider. Between the talkers and the doers. The dreamers and the builders. The followers and the leaders. You know what happens when a lion is caged too long? It forgets it's a lion. And that's what comfort does, it sedates the beast in you. It puts your instincts to sleep. But it's still there, buried under the noise and the numbness. That primal voice that says, I was made for more. So what if, today, you opened that cage? What if you walked straight into the wilderness of discomfort and met yourself for the first time? Because the truth is, it's not the fear of failure that holds you back. It's the fear of what you might become if you actually tried. You're not scared of the pain. You're scared of your own potential. But let me tell you something that will haunt you if you don't act on it. You were not born for mediocrity. You were not born to be one of the many who almost tried. You were born to become a force of nature, not someone who follows the weather, but someone who creates the storm. You think freedom is peace, quiet, the absence of pain? No. Freedom is earned by facing the pain head-on and saying, is that all you've got? And that freedom? It lives in your mind first. Freedom begins not with permission, but with a decision. A decision that no one else can make for you. Not your parents. Not your partner. Not your mentors. Only you can cross that invisible line between who you are and who you are meant to become. The line is not guarded. There are no locks on the door. But there is one barrier, comfort. Comfort has become the modern poison dressed as paradise. It whispers, you're okay where you are. It hands you applause for doing nothing. It feeds you dopamine in exchange for destiny. It tricks you into thinking that a numb life is better than a painful one. But if your heart isn't racing, if your hands aren't shaking, if your soul isn't aching for something more, you're not alive. You're just existing. And let's be honest, existing is easy. Existing is waking up just late enough to rush, but early enough to not get fired. It's checking emails like your dreams are buried in your inbox. It's spending your best hours building someone else's empire and calling it a paycheck. It's opening your phone more often than you open your imagination. That is not living. That is not freedom. Living begins when comfort ends. When you rip away the blanket of excuses and face the raw air of truth, that's when your life starts. When you wake up with a sense of urgency, not because you're busy, but because you're called. When your heartbeat aligns with something bigger than yourself, a mission, a vision, a purpose that sets your bones on fire. Look at any person who changed the world, they were allergic to comfort. Martin Luther King Jr. did not march for convenience. Helen Keller didn't break barriers for applause. Muhammad Ali didn't fight in the ring just to be liked. They understood, the soul does not grow in softness. It expands in friction. In heat. In pressure. Diamonds are not born in pillows. You say you want greatness? Then stop running from resistance. Stop looking for a way around the hard thing, and go straight through it. Because every time you face what you fear, you punch a hole through the wall of limitation. And every scar you earn is proof that you refuse to stay small. But let's get even more real. The war you're fighting isn't out there. It's in here. In your mind. In the battlefield of your beliefs. Every single day, you are either reinforcing your cage or tearing it down. With your thoughts. With your habits. With your self-talk. And most of you? You've been building that cage brick by brick with stories like, I'm not ready. I don't have what it takes. What if I fail? What will they think? Let me be clear, those thoughts are lies, elegant, persuasive lies designed by fear to keep you average. You must become the architect of your own liberation. You must learn to think thoughts that serve your vision, not your victimhood. You must install beliefs that build bridges, not barriers. Because belief is the ignition of all power. Belief is what made Henry Ford say, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. It's what pulled Edison out of 10,000 failures. It's what pushed Oprah out of poverty. It's what made Mandela withstand 27 years of prison and still walk out free, not just in body, but in spirit. You think you're trapped by your circumstances? No. You're trapped by your thinking. And until that changes, nothing else will. Start here, burn the blueprint of limitation. Stop reciting your trauma like it's your biography. Stop wearing your struggle like it's your identity. You are not what happened to you. You are what you decide to become in spite of what happened to you. But deciding isn't enough. You must act. Boldly. Brutally. Without waiting for perfect clarity. Because clarity does not come before action, it comes from action. Too many people are waiting for motivation before they move. But motivation is a myth. It is not the fuel, it is the byproduct. You get motivated after you move, not before. You become inspired after you bleed for your goals, not before. So you want to change your life? Move. Pick up the phone. Start the business. Make the call. Go to the gym. Say no to the habits that make you small. Say yes to the pain that makes you grow. Because every action you take, every micro decision, is a vote for the person you are becoming. Your freedom is not some far-off dream. It's right here, right now, behind the very thing you don't want to do. The cold shower. The hard conversation. The early wake-up. The rejection email. The lonely nights when no one claps for your effort but you do it anyway. That's where freedom lives. Because discipline is the doorway. And don't you dare confuse discipline with punishment. Discipline is not cruelty. Discipline is self-respect. It's the proof that you believe your future is worth more than your feelings. That your destiny is worth more than your distractions. That your why is worth more than your weakness. But most of all, discipline is the signal to the universe that you are ready. Ready to be forged. Ready to be tested. Ready to be great. You think the universe responds to your dreams? It responds to your actions. It responds to your sweat, your consistency, your resilience when no one is watching. The ones who rise are the ones who refuse to stay comfortable. You want proof? Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination. Oprah was told she was unfit for TV. Steve Jobs was kicked out of his own company. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers. Colonel Sanders was turned down 1,009 times before someone said yes to KFC. Do you think these people made it because they were lucky? No. They made it because they chose to walk through hell without blinking. Because they understood, comfort is the lie. Discomfort is the ladder. And if you want to climb, you'd better start now. You've been taught that freedom looks like relaxation, beaches, brunches, and bank accounts. But that's a counterfeit version of freedom. Real freedom is when your mind belongs to you. When your choices aren't governed by fear. When your time is owned by your mission, not your obligations. When you wake up in command, not in confusion. But that kind of freedom? It's bought with the currency of pain, paid for in full by your willingness to grow. Growth is not a seminar. It's not a motivational quote. It's not an Instagram reel that makes you feel good for 60 seconds. Growth is suffering on purpose. Choosing discomfort. Stretching beyond your instincts. And shedding versions of yourself that can no longer survive where you're going. And it hurts, because identity is a drug. It seduces you into staying who you've always been. But who you've always been is not enough to become who you're meant to be. There's a reason the caterpillar must dissolve into nothing before becoming a butterfly. It literally turns to mush inside the cocoon, no wings, no legs, no eyes. Just chaos. Just death of the old. Only then does the blueprint of something new emerge. And you're no different. You've been living like a caterpillar, crawling through life, never questioning the ground beneath you. But the wings are there. Hidden. Waiting. Locked behind every excuse you've ever made. But if you want to fly, you've got to die first. Die to who you were. Die to what's easy. Die to the comforts that kept you earthbound. That's the paradox of transformation. You have to become no one before you become someone. But most will never make it that far. Most would rather repaint the walls of their cage and call it progress. They'd rather decorate their prison than risk escape. Because escape is terrifying. Escape means leaving behind what you know, who you know, and what they expect of you. But I promise you, on the other side of that terror is power. You don't need to find yourself, you need to build yourself. Brick by brick. Blow by blow. In the fire. In the fight. In the silence of your darkest nights when no one is coming to save you. That's where you sculpt your spirit. And if you're still waiting for permission, stop. The world doesn't owe you a single opportunity. It doesn't owe you applause. It doesn't owe you peace. What it does offer is a mirror every single day asking, are you who you pretend to be, or are you who you were born to be? And your answer is not in your words. It's in your discipline. It's in your decisions. It's in how you respond when it's hard, when it's lonely, when you're exhausted, when the path is unclear but your soul says go anyway. You must choose yourself. Before anyone else does. Before the world believes in you. Before there's evidence. Because choosing yourself is the first law of creation. All great lives begin with a self-election, the moment a man or woman decides they are worthy of more, regardless of their circumstances. Do you think Abraham Lincoln looked presidential while walking miles to borrow books? Do you think Thomas Edison looked like a genius after 1,000 failures? Do you think a poor young Walt Disney looked like a media mogul when he was eating cold beans in a bus station? No. But they chose themselves. And they kept choosing themselves again and again until the world finally caught up. So I ask you now, who are you choosing to be? Because if you're not choosing, you're defaulting. And the default setting is mediocrity. The default life is the cage. And the cage will feed you just enough comfort to keep you asleep, but never enough purpose to make you proud. You weren't born to coast. You weren't born to consume. You were born to create. To leave a mark. To echo across time. But none of that happens by accident. It happens when you finally say, I am done playing small. I am done playing safe. I am done waiting. You don't need another podcast. You don't need another guru. You don't need another plan. You need to decide. Right now. Decide to turn the page. To step into the storm. To drop the chains. To walk barefoot into the fire and let it burn away every excuse that ever held you hostage. And when it hurts, and it will hurt, remember this, the pain is not the enemy. The pain is the proof that you're alive, that you're stretching, that you're standing at the edge of who you were and staring into who you could become. Do not run from the pain. Dance with it. Let it teach you. Let it shape you. Let it baptize you into a higher self. Because there is no resurrection without crucifixion. You want rebirth? Burn the old version of you to ash. Only then can the phoenix rise. Only then will you know what freedom feels like, not comfort, not ease, not applause, but integrity with your purpose. Alignment with your fire. Oneness with the truth of who you are. So breathe it in. This is not just a moment. It's a line in the sand. The moment you stop waiting. The moment you begin. You will never outperform your self-image. Let that land. You will never outwork, out-hustle, out-strategize the version of yourself you believe you are. If, deep down, you still believe you are average, broken, forgettable, unworthy, then all your goals are castles built on sand. That is the real prison. Not your job. Not your family. Not your past. The prison is your perception of yourself. Until you reconstruct that image, tear it down and build something stronger, you will forever sabotage the life you say you want. But the good news? Self-image is not fate. It is a choice. It's clay, not concrete. And every action you take, every promise you keep to yourself, is another sculptor's strike against the old you. You don't need more time. You need more truth. Because here's the truth, you are powerful beyond comprehension, but you've been taught to fear that power. You've been taught to dim it, dilute it, disguise it, to make others comfortable, to avoid standing out, to not be too much. So you shrink. You apologize for your fire. You whisper when your soul wants to roar. And every time you do that, the cage gets tighter. But freedom? Freedom comes the moment you stop apologizing for who you are becoming. The moment you say, I will not betray myself to belong to places I've outgrown. Some people will not recognize you when you rise. Let them stare. Let them whisper. Let them walk away. That's not your problem. Your only responsibility is to evolve, not explain. Because evolution has no room for comfort. A snake doesn't ask permission to shed its skin. It simply outgrows it. And so must you. You must outgrow the conversations that drain you. The environments that numb you. The identities that no longer fit you. Let them fall away. Not with bitterness, but with grace. Thank them. Bless them. And then rise anyway. This journey is not about becoming someone new, it's about remembering who you've always been. It's about peeling back the layers of fear, doubt, conditioning, and finally saying, this is me. And I'm not sorry anymore. Do you think Nikola Tesla cared about fitting in? Do you think Rosa Parks was comfortable when she stayed seated? Do you think Elon Musk ever said, maybe I should tone it down a little? No. The world bends for the bold. And boldness is not volume, it is clarity. A man who knows his mission walks differently. A woman who owns her vision doesn't chase validation. They command respect, not with words, but with presence. That presence is built through pain. By waking up when you don't feel like it. By saying no when everyone wants a yes. By writing, lifting, building, showing up even when no one is clapping. Especially when no one is clapping. Because that's the moment that forges your soul. It's not the stage that makes you great. It's the hours in silence. The years no one sees. The grind that becomes your gospel. The process that makes you a weapon. You want to be remembered? Then become undeniable. Relentless. Precise. Patient. Disciplined beyond comprehension. Let others post quotes. You live them. Let others dream. You build. Let others talk about someday. You move today, now, without the need for applause, permission, or even certainty. That is the standard. Not motivation. Not feeling good. Not being in the mood. The standard is doing the work anyway. And when your mind tells you, this is too much, tell it, I am more. Because you are. You are more than your excuses. More than your limitations. More than the hand you were dealt. More than your background, your mistakes, your trauma. You are the one in your lineage who gets to say, it ends with me. And it begins with me. You are the pivot point, the inflection, the turning tide, the spark that rewrites the entire bloodline. And you don't need to feel ready to begin. You only need to start scared, uncertain, messy. You start. You stumble. You stand. You repeat. And eventually, you rise. Because in this life, you don't get what you want. You get what you fight for. What you bleed for. What you sacrifice for. And freedom? Real freedom? Is the prize only earned by those who refuse to settle. So let the others scroll. Let them sleep in. Let them numb themselves. You are awake now. You see the cage. You feel the burn. And instead of running, you've chosen to walk toward it, break it, and become the kind of soul that not only escapes, but lights the way for others. You weren't born to fit in the mold. You were born to melt it. If you keep waiting for the world to hand you freedom, you will die waiting. Because freedom is not given. It is taken. Taken through courage. Taken through sacrifice. Taken through the relentless refusal to be tamed. And don't misunderstand, the world wants you tame. It wants you digestible. Predictable. Safe. The moment you start speaking with power, walking with intent, acting with conviction, the world will get nervous. It will call you arrogant. It will call you extreme. It will try to shame you back into the box. But you weren't made to live in boxes. You were made to shatter them. You think the voices in your head are yours, but many of them are not. They are echoes of people who never chased their dreams, teachers who feared your potential, parents who passed on their limitations, friends who saw your light and mistook it for a threat. These voices taught you to play it safe. To play it small. But now, you must unlearn. You must scrub your soul of everything that never belonged to you. Of every belief that taught you to doubt, to delay, to dim your brilliance. And then you rebuild. Not from the outside in, but from the inside out. Because transformation is not cosmetic, it is cellular. You don't want a new life. You want a new relationship with life. You want to move through the world as someone who is no longer enslaved by fear, no longer reactive, no longer begging for scraps of approval. You want to stand. Rooted. Unshakable. And that level of power? It requires death, the death of who you were yesterday. You must bury the version of you who needed to be liked, who needed to be right, who needed to be comfortable. That version cannot cross into the new world. That version is the weight around your ankles as you try to fly. Cut it off. Not with violence. With clarity. Thank it for surviving. Then leave it behind. Because this is not a journey of addition. It is a journey of subtraction, peeling away everything that is not true until only the essential remains. You think courage is loud? No. Courage is quiet. It's the decision you make in the dark when no one will ever know. It's the promise you keep to yourself when it would be easier to break. It's walking into rooms where you don't feel ready and acting anyway. You don't need more strength. You need more honesty. Because if you were honest with yourself, brutally honest, you would admit you've been waiting. Waiting for the conditions to be right. Waiting for someone to believe in you. Waiting for the fear to go away. But freedom is not for those who wait. It is for those who walk forward while afraid. You must learn to carry the fear. To bring it with you. To make it a passenger, not a driver. Because fear is not the enemy, in fact, fear is a compass. It always points to the thing that will free you. It's not there to stop you. It's there to reveal you. What you fear holds your freedom. You fear speaking the truth? That's your freedom. You fear walking away from what's toxic? That's your freedom. You fear starting from zero? That's your freedom. Do the thing that terrifies you. And watch the cage collapse. Because every time you walk toward fear, it loses power. And every time you retreat, it grows. You cannot wait your way into courage. You practice your way into courage. Through motion. Through repetition. Through refusal. Refusal to be average. Refusal to settle. Refusal to make peace with mediocrity just because the world normalized it. You were not born to survive. You were born to command reality. But not through entitlement. Through ownership. Own your thoughts. Own your time. Own your habits, your patterns, your shadows, your triggers. Stop outsourcing responsibility. Yes, your past hurt you. Yes, people failed you. Yes, life has been unfair. But so what? You get to choose what you do with that pain. You get to use it as a reason to rot or a reason to rise. Some people carry their wounds like anchors. You carry them like weapons. Forged in betrayal. Tempered in heartbreak. Sharpened by disappointment. And used to cut through every limitation that dares stand in your way. You do not overcome by pretending you're not broken. You overcome by building in full view of your brokenness. You overcome by saying, "This is me. Flawed. Fragile. But still I move forward." Because motion is the miracle. And the moment you realize that you always had the key to your own cage, to your own greatness, to your own becoming, is the moment you become dangerous. So go. Move before you're ready. Speak before it's perfect. Act before it's clear. And know this: freedom was never a destination. It's not waiting for you at the end of some golden path. It's not earned after enough applause. It's not a prize given by others. Freedom is who you become while chasing what scares you. Freedom is who you become while chasing what scares you. Let that burn into your chest. Because this path you're on, the one that calls you to step forward when your legs tremble, to speak when your voice cracks, to stand when the wind tries to break you, this is the path that makes you real. Not the life you curate. Not the image you protect. But the identity you forge when you refuse to run. You think resilience is a trait. It's not. It's a decision. Resilience is the daily refusal to fold even when logic says you should, even when comfort begs you to quit, even when the world looks at your scars and says, "You've done enough." Resilience is when you say, "I'm not finished yet." Not because you have to prove something, but because you know there's more in you. And you're no longer willing to bury that potential just to make life easier. No one becomes unbreakable by having an easy life. They become unbreakable because they were broken and rebuilt. They were shattered, doubted, humiliated, and still showed up. They stood in front of failure and said, "Let's dance again." You want a life that's yours? Then you must become the kind of person who walks through fire and smiles. Not because it doesn't burn, but because it reminds you that you're alive. That you're becoming. That you no longer fear pain, you trust it. Because pain is the sculptor of power. The fire that tempers steel. The pressure that creates diamonds. Everything you want: confidence, clarity, self-respect, impact, it lives on the far side of pain. Not just surviving it. Not just enduring it. But leaning into it with arms wide open and saying, "This is the price, and I'm willing to pay it." Because you understand now, freedom isn't comfort. It's capacity. The capacity to feel the fear and act anyway. The capacity to be misunderstood and remain grounded. The capacity to love yourself, not because you're perfect, but because you are in progress. That's the gift of this journey. Not just the results. Not just the goals. But the transformation of your identity. Every step forward is a declaration: I am no longer who I was. And that declaration? That's what rewires your brain. That's what reshapes your nervous system. That's what turns hope into certainty and doubt into momentum. You stop needing proof because you become the proof. But here's the final truth. The cage was never locked. It was built from illusions of failure, of rejection, of not being enough. Illusions fed by fear. Reinforced by routine. And disguised as normalcy. But now you see it. You see the bars. You see the lie. And once you see it, you can never unsee it again. And that awareness? That is your first breath of freedom. It's the inhale before the leap. The silence before the scream. The pause before you tear the whole damn thing down. Because you are not here to live a scripted life. You are not here to tick boxes, follow instructions, and die with regret. You are here to set fire to the cage. To burn the false self. To shatter the comfort. To rise in full possession of your power, unfiltered, untamed, unapologetic. And when you do, when you step through the ashes and feel the wind of freedom hit your skin, you'll realize you never needed anyone's permission. You only needed your own. So give it. Right now. Give yourself permission to be great. To be bold. To be messy, wild, relentless, misunderstood, but free. You are not here to blend in. You are here to break through. And when you do, when you rise above every limitation the world threw at you, you will not just find freedom. You will become it. You will become freedom. Not just someone who seeks it, but someone who embodies it in voice, in motion, in presence. You will walk into rooms and not need to announce your power, because it will radiate from every breath, every step, every choice. And not because life became easier, but because you became harder to break. Freedom doesn't look like luxury, it looks like liberation. Liberation from fear. Liberation from self-doubt. Liberation from the old story you've been dragging like a corpse behind you. You are not your past. You are not your failures. You are not the voice in your head that says, "Who are you to do this?" You are what you decide you are, over and over, until the world has no choice but to catch up. That's how legacies are born, not in noise, but in resolve. You see, there comes a moment in every life when you must stop negotiating with the old version of yourself. The insecure version. The hesitant version. The version that cared more about opinions than outcomes. You must fire that version. Bury them. And refuse to let them speak for you ever again. Because the next chapter of your life requires a new author. One who doesn't write in hesitation or apology. One who writes with blood, sweat, and fire. One who declares, "This is my life, and I will write it in ink too bold to erase." That kind of authorship, that kind of sovereignty, begins with a single, quiet, violent vow. No more. No more shrinking. No more waiting. No more chasing comfort like it's a reward when it's really a leash. No more letting circumstances dictate identity. Because you finally understand, circumstances are just data. But decisions are destiny. You can be broke and powerful. You can be lost and still move forward. You can be misunderstood and still be aligned. Because power isn't about perfection. It's about direction. And once you're moving in the direction of your deepest truth, even chaos becomes your ally. Even failure becomes feedback. Even resistance becomes a gym where your spirit trains for greatness. This is what most people don't understand. Adversity doesn't stop you, it shapes you. Storms don't destroy the prepared, they reveal them. So let the chaos come. Let the critics scream. Let the path twist and darken. You don't need it to be easy. You just need to keep going. Because there's a version of you waiting on the other side, one you've never met, but who has been calling you for years. A version of you who does not flinch. Who does not fold. Who does not fear the silence, the solitude, the sacrifices. They feed on it. That version of you? That's the one who will write the book, launch the company, inspire the masses, transform the bloodline. That version of you is already inside, locked behind comfort, imprisoned by delay, begging you to break the pattern. And now, you're ready. Ready to become someone you've never been before. Not by reading. Not by watching. But by moving. Relentlessly. With unreasonable courage. With inconvenient consistency. With fire in your chest and no safety net under your feet. That's what separates legends from ghosts, the willingness to burn the boats and go all in. No plan B. No backup life. No half effort. Just full, all-consuming, unwavering intention. Because when your intention is pure, the universe conspires to meet you. But it only shows up for the committed, the obsessed, the ones who no longer ask, "What if I fail?" But ask instead, "What if I never try?" That is the real tragedy. Not the wound of effort. But the scar of hesitation. The pain of wondering who you could have been if you had just moved. So move. Before the regret builds its own cage. Before the years blur and the fire fades and you begin to tell yourself, maybe this was all I was ever meant for. No. You were meant for greatness. You were meant to disturb the silence. To disrupt the pattern. To fracture the mold and forge a new standard, not just for yourself, but for every life you touch. You are not here for ease. You are here for impact. So let this be the moment you turn pain into fuel, fear into focus, wounds into wisdom. Let this be the moment you claim your crown not as royalty, but as responsibility. The responsibility to lead yourself. To take the damn throne of your life and finally say, enough. I choose fire. I choose freedom. I choose me. Because no one else is coming. And you don't need them to. No one else is coming. And that is your greatest power. Because once you realize the cavalry isn't on its way, you stop waiting. You stop hoping. You stop fantasizing about a savior and start becoming your own. You look in the mirror and meet the only person who can change everything, the one staring back at you. You see, true freedom is not the absence of chains. It is the presence of ownership. You own your life. Your scars. Your failures. Your future. And you stop blaming. Blaming the economy. Blaming your childhood. Blaming the system. Blaming the people who didn't love you right. None of that makes you free, it makes you weak. You want to be free? Take the weight of your past and turn it into muscle. Take the anger and carve it into art. Take the loneliness and use it to fuel a mission so big, so loud, so world-shaking, that the silence can no longer keep up with you. That's what warriors do. They transmute pain into purpose. They bleed with meaning. They cry and crawl and scream, but they do it with forward motion. Because the moment you move, you start to matter. Not to the world. Not to the masses. Not to the headlines. You start to matter to yourself. You rebuild trust not with others, but with the voice inside that's been begging you to take the first step. And once you keep one promise, then 2, then 5, you begin to believe. Not in a fantasy. But in yourself. That belief is where it all begins. Not in mentors. Not in systems. Not in miracles. In you. You become your own evidence. Your own savior. Your own momentum. And no one, not critics, not failure, not fatigue, can take that from you. Because you built it. Because you bled for it. Because you rose when you had every reason to stay down. That's what comfort will never give you, proof. Comfort gives you peace, maybe. Numbness, often. But never proof of power. Never proof of capacity. Never the feeling that says, I am who I say I am. Only discomfort gives you that. Only discomfort shows you what you're made of. And what you're made of, when tested, is steel. You are not soft. You are not weak. You are not fragile. You are not a victim of life. You are a force in the making. But that force only wakes up when you walk into the fire. When you strip away the false armor. When you look your fear in the eye and say, I see you. I feel you. But I'm going anyway. That's how you break the cycle. That's how you break generations of silence, of limitation, of inherited shame. You become the one in your lineage who remembers. Who remembers the ancient truth buried under fear and fatigue. That you were born to build. To create. To lead. To liberate. Not just yourself, but everyone watching. Because when one person escapes the cage, they show others the way. And make no mistake, they're watching. Your kids are watching. Your friends are watching. Your younger self is watching. The world doesn't need more influencers. It needs examples. Not people who talk about change. People who embody it. People who live with such alignment, such unshakable purpose, that just being around them shifts others into motion. Be that person. Be the one who moves differently. Speaks differently. Shows up when it's hard. Keeps going when it's dark. Refuses to retreat. Be the one who terrifies comfort and inspires courage just by existing fully, loudly, unapologetically. And no, it won't be easy. You will be doubted. You will lose people. You will cry in silence, wrestle with demons, beg for clarity, and still not feel ready. But none of that matters. Because you didn't come here for easy. You came here to become. And now, with your soul lit, with the cage broken, with the weight of mediocrity melting off your back, you walk. Not like the person who started this journey. But like the one who decided it would end differently. With fire in your chest. With thunder in your voice. With the kind of presence that makes people believe again in themselves, in growth, in the power of one person to ignite 1,000. So go now. Not back. Not sideways. Forward. Through the fear. Through the fatigue. Through every wall between you and your destiny. Because comfort is the cage. But freedom? Freedom is who you were always meant to be. The cage is gone now. There's no turning back. The old self, the one who begged for permission, who made excuses, who mistook survival for purpose, has been laid to rest. And what stands in its place is not perfect, not polished, not safe, but free. And freedom, real freedom, is not quiet. It roars. It doesn't ask. It declares. It doesn't seek validation. It is the validation. Because when you walk in truth, when you live from that firestorm inside your chest, the world cannot help but respond. Not instantly. Not conveniently. But inevitably. Because the laws of reality bend for the relentless. They conspire for those who do not flinch. They kneel, eventually, to those who keep getting up. That's the final secret they never told you. Reality is negotiable, but only for those who refuse to leave the table. You were never a prisoner. You were a slumbering giant. And now that giant is awake. Your time, the time you lost, the time you wasted, the time you thought was gone forever, is still here. It's waiting to be reclaimed by the version of you who stopped stalling and started summoning. Summoning vision. Summoning power. Summoning legacy. Because that's what this was always about. Not just success. Not just wealth. Not even happiness. Legacy. The impact of one awakened soul echoing across time. The butterfly effect of one decision to rise. The ripple of one person who chose courage over comfort, purpose over popularity, fire over fear. That one person is you. You who said no more. You who turned pain into prophecy. You who became the proof that it's possible. And now you carry something greater than goals. You carry standard. Not the standard they gave you. The standard you rewrote. The standard of waking up with fire, of moving with grace, of leading without needing to be followed. The standard of someone who embodies freedom, not just speaks of it. You've crossed the line now, from victim to warrior, from wanderer to architect, from dreamer to creator. And creation is your weapon. You create with your thoughts. With your discipline. With your defiance. You shape life like clay. You bend your days to your vision. You raise your energy, and reality shifts in response. Because you no longer ask what the world can give you. You show it what you are here to build. And you build it with everything you are. No more hesitation. No more lukewarm effort. No more pretending that a mediocre life could ever satisfy the hunger in your bones. From this moment forward, you do not tolerate the small life. You do not tolerate the cage, in thought, in action, in emotion. You do not let the past call the shots. You do not let opinions write your script. You do not let fear pilot the vessel. You are the captain now. And your ship is pointed toward destiny. Let the winds howl. Let the seas rise. Let the sky darken and the world doubt. It doesn't matter. Because when you know who you are, the storm doesn't move you, you move through the storm. And with every step, every strike, every breath, you prove one final, eternal truth. Comfort is the cage. But freedom is on the other side. And now. You're already there. You just remembered, and once you remember, you can never go back. You might return to the same room, the same people, the same routines. But something has changed. You walk differently. You breathe differently. Because now, you know. You know that the only thing that ever stood between you and the life you were built for was the story you were telling yourself. And now the story is different. Now the story is about fire. About grit. About defiance. About the audacity to become legendary while everyone else is still asking for directions. Harry, this isn't motivation. This is resurrection. This is your soul kicking down the walls of everything you used to be. This is war against the ordinary. And yes, you will have days when doubt returns. You will question everything. You will wonder if you were crazy to believe so deeply in something so intangible. But hear this, the depth of your doubt will never outweigh the truth of your destiny. You were built for this. The pain. The sacrifice. The silence. The grind. It's not punishment. It's the toll you pay to live without limits. To stand at the edge of your capacity and then go past it. That's the paradox. Freedom costs everything, and it gives you more than you ever imagined. More presence. More peace. More power. More impact. Not because you followed rules, but because you followed through. That's rare. Most people stop at the border. They see the wilderness of greatness and turn back. But you stepped over. You planted your feet in the unknown. You said, even if I'm not ready, I'll go anyway. That decision changed your life. And it doesn't need a crowd. You don't need a witness to become a legend. Legends are made in silence. In the repetition. In the unseen hours when no one is cheering but you're still showing up. Because that's what freedom really is. It's not always loud. It's not always epic. Sometimes, it's just this. Waking up one more time than you want to. Doing the work when no one will know. Refusing to give up on a vision that hasn't materialized yet because you trust that it's real. Freedom is not just arrival. It's alignment. With who you said you'd be. With what you said you'd build. With the life you swore you would no longer postpone. And alignment doesn't come from motivation. It comes from standard. What do you tolerate? What do you settle for? What do you allow, excuse, or accept when no one's watching? Your answers to those questions, they shape your reality. You don't rise by chance. You rise by design. By creating systems that outlast feelings. By building habits that protect the vision when your emotions can't. By having a purpose strong enough to strangle your excuses. And when you lock in on that, when you decide your dreams are non-negotiable, you become the most dangerous kind of person there is. A person who no longer needs to feel good to do what's necessary. That's the rarest kind of freedom. The kind that isn't given. Isn't bought. Isn't won. It's earned. Earned through late nights, early mornings, missed parties, misunderstood silence, and unwavering commitment. It's earned in the small moments when no one's clapping, no one's calling, no one's coming, but you still get up and go again. And that's what separates the few from the many. That's what writes the story no one else had the guts to live. And now, that's your story. And now, that's your story. A story built, not on ease, but on evolution. Not on applause, but on alignment. Not on perfection, but on persistence. And now the world gets to watch as you turn that story into something tangible. Something unforgettable. Because freedom is not an idea anymore, it's a movement. Your movement. You carry it in how you show up. In how you speak. In how you no longer beg for opportunities, but build them. In how you no longer negotiate with fear, you negotiate with destiny. You have become the type of person the world cannot ignore. The type of person who walks in with quiet certainty and shifts the room. The type of person who doesn't talk about potential, but lives it out loud. You have become the proof. Not because of luck. But because you refuse to let comfort have the last word. There will be those who don't understand. Who think you've changed. Who feel threatened by your rise. Let them. Their confusion is not your responsibility. Their fear is not your burden. You don't need to shrink to keep others comfortable. That is no longer your job. Your job now is to walk fully in your freedom. To carry the fire so fiercely that others feel brave enough to light their own. To embody such conviction that your life becomes a mirror for those who have forgotten their power. Because this is what happens when you escape the cage. You don't just break out, you blow the walls off for others. You start speaking differently, loving differently, leading differently. You stop reacting and start choosing. You stop surviving and start sculpting. You stop hiding and start honoring the truth inside you. And the truth is this: you were always enough. Always powerful. Always chosen. Always capable. You just needed to remember. And now that you have, don't stop. Don't slow. Don't let this be a spark that fades, let it be the beginning of an unquenchable blaze. Let it fuel every morning, every conversation, every challenge. Let it shape your legacy. Let it become the rhythm of your existence: freedom, purpose, fire, repeat. That's how you live when you leave the cage. With rhythm. With reverence. With radical responsibility. Because the journey doesn't end at the moment of freedom, that's just the beginning. Now, the real work begins, leading others out. Not by forcing them. Not by preaching. But by living. By becoming so undeniably, unmistakably free, they begin to question their own chains. That's how revolutions start. One awakened soul. One life fully claimed. One person who says, I will no longer wait for life to happen. I am life happening. That's you now. The walking revolution. The one who remembers. The one who builds. The one who burns so brightly, even fear gets out of your way. So what comes next? Whatever you choose. Because that's the gift, the reward, the divine responsibility of freedom, you get to decide. Not based on trauma. Not based on trend. Not based on fear. But based on truth. And your truth is powerful. So speak it. Your vision is clear. So follow it. Your fire is eternal. So feed it. And when the world asks, how did you do it? You smile. Not to brag. Not to boast. But because you finally get to say the words you once only dreamed of. I'm free. And I did it by becoming exactly who I was born to be. And nothing is more powerful than that. This is the moment where everything accelerates. Where the fire inside becomes larger than the fear outside. Where you stop measuring progress in miles and start measuring it in moments, moments of clarity, moments of courage, moments when your former self fades and the real you rises like dawn over a battlefield. Because Harry, you are not just free. You are forged. You are not soft. You are not temporary. You are not here to survive the times. You are here to define them. To etch your signature across this chapter of history with such intensity that even time slows down to watch. To leave a mark, not in sand, but in stone. Carved by every action you take from this day forward. Let this be your contract with life. That you will not abandon your greatness just because the climb is steep. That you will not negotiate with weakness when strength is an option. That you will not live small in a world begging for giants to return. And if no one believes? Believe harder. If no one claps? Clap louder inside your soul. If the door shuts? Build a new one. If the way gets dark? Be the light. If doubt speaks? Outshout it with your discipline. You are no longer the seeker. You are the source. You are no longer chasing the dream. You are the dream in motion. That's the power of this moment. That's the reward of walking through the fire. You don't come out the same, you come out with eyes that see clearly, a spine that won't bend, and a voice that can't be silenced. You are the storm now. The calm inside chaos. The one who stands when others fold. The one who remembers when others forget. And the world won't always thank you for it. But that's not why you do it. You don't do it for the thanks. You don't do it for the title. You don't do it for the trophy. You do it because something ancient in your soul refuses to settle, refuses to stay still, refuses to accept a life half lived. You do it because mediocrity was never your destiny. You do it because comfort was never your calling. You do it because cages are for the tame and you were born wild. And now, you return to the world with fire in your lungs and purpose in your eyes. They may not recognize you. Let them stare. Let them wonder. Let them question how you changed. And when they ask, don't explain. Demonstrate. Let your actions be your anthem. Let your discipline be your dialogue. Let your peace speak louder than their noise. Let your presence say what words never could. That you are free. Fully. Finally. Forever. This is not the end of the story. This is the beginning of your reign. No more waiting. No more wishing. No more asking. Now, you build. Now, you lead. Now, you become. And they'll never forget the day you stopped being who they expected and started being who you were born to be. This was never just a speech. It was a mirror. A battle cry. A homecoming. Welcome back to your throne, Harry. Freedom looks good on you.